We are back to help out the one quarterback gang.
As
We've got a
always.
fresh, crispy, straight, hot out the oven, one quarterback format Dynasty
boy.
rookie mock.
Come on.
And we're excited to bring it to you guys. Important that you know that we are using landing spots from Shane Hollum's 7-round draft countdown mock that was released, I believe, January 15th. So we didn't make the landing spots, but we are using these landing spots as if it was real life to have this exercise and have fun to talk about these players. So
Yeah, agreed.
let's get straight to it. One quarterback, PPR, non-tight end premium, 2024 Dynasty rookie mock. You're up at the 101, Badaki.
Am
It's a
I?
big surprise. Who are you taking?
Okay.
Everyone's at the edge of their seats.
Everyone's at the edge of their seats. Don't overthink it. Marvin Harrison Jr. Where does he go to? The Arizona Cardinals. He's going to the Arizona Cardinals, if you didn't know.
It feels like it's almost set in stone unless New England does something freaky.
100%. Or somebody trades up to take Marvin Harrison Jr. that in reality should be taking a quarterback. But yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Arizona Cardinals here at the 101.
Yeah, no big surprise there. We love him. You love him. Yes, he's a generational prospect. Yes, people hate the term generational, but how else do you describe a player like that?
Yeah.
There are, obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. He's an elite wide receiver prospect, but there are two elite wide receiver prospects in this class, and these are dream landing spots for these top two wide receivers.
Yep.
Marvin goes to Arizona with Kyler. Malik Neighbors goes to the Chargers and links up with Justin Herbert. Maybe Jim Harbaugh is the head coach over there in Los Angeles. By the time you guys are watching this video, maybe not, but
Maybe not.
he's certainly taking interviews over there. And Quentin Johnston, let's be honest, did not become the player that we wanted him to become.
Still the guy.
Or that he wanted to become, let's be honest, in his rookie season. I think at this point, you just hope that he develops, but he's clearly not the answer for what happens with Mike Williams when he comes back from his ACL. How long can Keenan Allen produce at this age? And someone left a comment, which was actually pretty intriguing to me. The Chargers might look like a spot where it's like, what do you mean there's so many weapons? Well, keep in mind, guys, no one has a worse cap situation than the Chargers heading into 2024. And it would save them, I believe, $20 million to cut Mike Williams. So just keep that in mind. This team is going to have some very difficult conversations, and it's not worked with the receiving room that they've got. So Malik Neighbors steps in. He's going to give Justin Herbert a number one option from day one. I don't care if Keenan Allen is still playing at the level he did last year. Malik Neighbors can instantly in camp overtake Keenan Allen as the number one weapon in this offense. Number one PFF receiving grade. Reminds me a little bit of Reggie Wayne, a little Antonio Brown after the catch, a little DJ Moore. He's a very exciting player, and I think Justin Herbert, man, he would be thinking his lucky stars if this happens. He and Mahomes suffered from some really bad drops in 2024.
Yeah, no question about it. So Malik Neighbors there at the 102 to the Los Angeles Chargers. Love the pick here. This is where it can go a lot of different...
The draft starts here.
Yeah, this is where it can go a lot of different ways. I'm going to continue to go with my third wide receiver in my rankings. Now, he does go to the Indianapolis Colts, and that is Rome Odunze, and he falls all the way to the 15th pick in the NFL draft. I think you and I both agree we don't really envision him going outside the top 10, but if he does go outside the top 10, this, I guess, could be a realistic landing spot where Michael Pittman Jr. could potentially be walking. You do get your franchise quarterback in Anthony Richardson, but I think that is the biggest caveat here. Can Anthony Richardson take his talent, his passing ability to the next level? That is one of the things that you and I were talking about, him coming in to the NFL draft, that we wanted to see him improve going into his NFL career. Now, did we see a lot of that this year? No, because he was injured and missed a lot of the season. It's an interesting landing spot. I'm not 100% in love with it, but in my mind, in this world, I'm assuming Michael Pittman Jr. is no longer on this team. He immediately comes up to be the number one wide receiver with a quarterback that we still do believe could produce fantasy relevant wide receivers if he improves his touch and his passing ability.
Yeah, there were 2 games where Anthony Richardson played 100% of the snaps and he was healthy. He didn't get injured. I believe it was week 1 and week 5. I know it was week 1. I can't remember if it was week 5 or 4. But it's like two polar opposites for what Michael Pittman produced for fantasy. In 1 week, he scored, I think, over 23 fantasy points. The other week, it was under 5, and he only had 5 targets. So a little bit of a mixed bag with A-Rich under center for, what will that mean for a wide receiver in fantasy football? But, the good news is you got Shane Steichen there. You kind of trust that process. Exactly. And you hope that Michael Pittman isn't there because you want these stud wide receivers falling in a spot where, they're instantly getting an opportunity to be the number 1.
Yeah. Agreed.
I'm up at the 104. This isn't a tight end premium, but I'm going to go ahead and take Brock Bowers here at the 104. He goes to the Cincinnati Bengals with pick 18. So he falls in this NFL mock draft that we're using today. He falls all the way to pick 18. And I think Brock Bowers is the best prospect at the tight end position since Kyle Pitts. So don't hear what I'm not saying here. But keep in mind, this time last year, a lot of people believed Michael Mayer would be a top 10 pick. Talking about him getting out of the top 15 was like, you're crazy. There's no way.
I hear you.
Didn't exactly test as well as a lot of people thought he would have. Now, in Brock Bowers' defense, I think he's the best collegiate tight end ever. I think he's potentially the best prospect at the tight end position ever. And the difference between him and Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts, he's not the best tight end prospect ever. He's the best athlete that's ever entered the NFL at the tight end position. Do you know what I mean? But as far as like playing the tight end position to a T, Brock is probably the best we've seen, at least in the last 10 years. So he joins the Cincinnati Bengals. What happens with T. Higgins? Is it realistic to keep him? Regardless, even if T stays, I'm taking Brock here, connected to Joe Burrow. And if T walks, you've got the number 2 option automatically connected to Joe Burrow. Boyd and T are both free agents. Maybe they bring back Boyd and T moves on, gets a bag. So, yeah, I'll take Brock Bowers here at the 104, even though it's not a tight end premium.
Yeah, it makes sense. I definitely like the landing spot for Brock Bowers there to the Cincinnati Bengals.
By the way, just before we move on, if Brock Bowers is drafted to the Cincinnati Bengals in the first round, where does he rank for us amongst all tight ends in Dynasty from day 1?
With or without T. Higgins, does that matter? Well, I think that matters with or without
That does matter. Let's see T. Higgins moves on. Because it's a fun idea to say that he'll stay, and maybe he will. But if another team puts $28 million a year in front of his face, can the Bengals match that? So let's just say T does move on. Where does Brock Bowers rank for you? Because for me, it's like he's battling Sam Laporta for tight end 1.
Okay, I would say more like tight end. I would say the tight end 2, tight end 3. I think for me, it would have to depend on how fast TJ Hawkinson is going to come back and who's the quarterback there. Sure. Because I think if TJ Hawkinson wasn't injured, I think he's easily tight end 3. And that's, I feel like that's really good for Brock personally coming in.
Sure.
But yeah, I think he right now, if TJ Hawkinson is not going to come back until like week 6, 7, Brock Bowers can establish himself. He can be my tight end 2 coming into the season.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right.
What are you doing here at the 105 then?
Yeah, at the 105, another wide receiver who actually went ahead of Rome Odunze by 1 spot. He went with the 14th overall pick. That is Brian Thomas Jr. going to the New Orleans Saints. I like this landing spot.
I do too.
I like the landing spot because of the opportunity that he can come in and be a good wide receiver to Chris Olave. I hate the quarterback play specifically, but look, they did fire their offensive coordinator as of recent, in the last couple of days as we're recording this video, which is also really exciting. I know Derek Carr is probably not going to move on, but Brian Thomas does have the talent to be a big body receiver. He is big and fluid that can move, and he can really extend the play, be an outside big body wide receiver. He can also play a little bit in the slot, not saying he will, but somebody that can easily change this offense as he comes in with Rome Odunze with Chris Olave and Brian Thomas, which would be really exciting here at the 105.
Yeah, I've talked about this before, but it reminds me, DK Metcalf had a lot of limitations as a route runner coming into the NFL. He joined the Seahawks, and Tyler Lockett was, and he still is not to the same extent today, but a problem for defensive coordinators to think about. It was a problem. You can't leave that guy one-on-one. You got to think about him over the top. In the same sense now for Brian Thomas, who needs to work on, certain parts of his route running and his release package. He's a great athlete, though. He's got, maybe to a better extent, Chris Olave on the other side, who's going to demand double teams and coverage over the top. So I think when you're building a wide receiver room, I think that it makes a lot of sense there. But you're right, the quarterback play is the only question mark you'd have, really. So I'm at the 106, and I'm going to take another wide receiver that went in the first round. We love this player, and I'm glad he's getting in the first round in some mock drafts because he's fallen into the second in a couple. I don't like to see that. But Troy Franklin comes off the board at the 106. He goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Really intriguing profile that Troy Franklin has. I mean, there are not many star wide receivers in the NFL that are 6'3", 187 pounds. That's what he's listed at. I think he probably plays at 175 to 180. That's probably his play weight. So 6'3", 180, let's say. You're not going to find many good comps when it comes to his size. I mean, the closest you will find is probably Robbie Chosen Anderson, but he's a far better prospect and player than Robbie Anderson. He reminds me a little bit of Deshaun Jackson, a little Jameson Williams in there, some Devonta Smith. I want to be careful with that comp. Devonta Smith is a better catcher of the ball, but explosive athlete, get him in space. We have already seen this team succeed in getting an explosive athlete in space this year with Rashee Rice. Now you add a different dimension to your offense, a guy who can really open things up down the field. Right now, think about it for the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, we've got Rashee Rice. He is not someone that you're throwing 30-yard passes to down the field very often, right? You got Travis Kelce, another guy who works under the secondary, who's not really I'm not saying he won't extend plays. He definitely will, but at this phase of his career, you're trying to do that short to intermediate game. Who in this offense is stretching the field?
There you go.
MVS a couple times a game, and maybe he doesn't even catch it.
Right.
So this is the perfect fit for the offense. Troy Franklin, I would say, becomes the best route runner on wide receiver specifically on this team from day one. He's got a great baseline to work with, and he's connected to Patrick Mahomes, and we know he can produce. He broke out at the age of 19, accounted for over 24.5% of Oregon's receiving offense in 2022. So yeah, I love this pick. I'll take him at the 106.
Yeah, love Troy Franklin, one of my favorite wide receivers here coming into this draft. All right, the 107, there's a lot of ways you can go. I think, I'll be honest with you, actually, at the 108, I think that's where you can start going quarterback. I was going to say at the 107 you can, but depending on how many wide receivers go in the first round, I will still go there, and that's exactly where I would go. Xavier Worthy at the 107 going to the Buffalo Bills, and this just elevates this offense. You have Stephon Diggs there, Xavier Worthy, Gabe Davis, most likely, I would say, no longer going to be on this team. He takes over either that role, that Shakira role that's playing in the slot that we just saw in the playoffs, the wild card playoffs, and what he can do. Xavier Worthy can do that better, right? 6'1", 171 pounds, elite speed, twitchiness, suddenness, yards after the catch, and so much more that Xavier Worthy can bring. I kind of compared him to a Hollywood Brown, a more twitchier, I would say personally, Hollywood Brown coming into this draft class, going there with Josh Allen, who can distribute the ball. Now, there is a knock. He does have some drop issues, one of the worst drops percentages, if I'm not mistaken, coming out of this class. But you hope that he can figure that out, as we've seen a lot of other wide receivers figure out some drop issues going into the NFL draft. So Xavier Worthy at the 107 to the Buffalo Bills.
And I've said this on the stream, with the drop issues, I think we should pull back a little bit on that narrative. Not to say that it's not true, but I think we should bring context as to why that's a concern, because this year his drop percentage is not really worse than anyone else in this class. It's his career drop percentage that's been an issue, but he did have a hand injury last year that played a little bit of a part. But beyond all of those numbers, it's when you put the All-22 on and you watch the actual film, it's just the concentration drops that are a concern with Xavier Worthy. He'll make these ridiculous highlight plays, but he'll drop the easy ones. That's really where my concern is for him. And I think that is something that, it is at times a little too drawn out. It's a good player. He suits the NFL well. You're right. The concentration drops are definitely an issue, though. Yeah. I'm up here at the 108, and I don't think I'm thinking about quarterback anytime soon.
Okay.
Personally, I think there's a lot of really good landing spots for positional players. And I think the next player I'm going to grab is going to be a my guy. Let's go Ladd McConkey here at the 108.
Okay.
I'll take Ladd here. He goes to the Dallas Cowboys in the second round. So a top 60 selection in the NFL draft. I think he would complement this offense really well. Brandon Cooks has kind of picked up steam towards the back half of the season, but he's an older player. And clearly, Michael Gallup is not the same. He's never recovered to be the same player pre-injury that he had. So they need someone in this offense to kind of complement CeeDee Lamb. I think Ladd McConkey is the perfect complement. Attached to Dak Prescott, an offense that throws the ball a lot, a very good route runner, underrated athlete, just in general. Ladd McConkey is way underrated. Like, he is so dynamic after the catch. He's got great speed. My pro comps, if I'm not mistaken, one of them was Chris Godwin. I've talked about Deontay Johnson as a good comp for him too, and Robert Woods. Don't think about what Robert Woods is today, but rather what he was on the Rams.
Right.
I'll take Ladd McConkey at the 108.
All right, 108, Ladd McConkey to the Dallas Cowboys. Very interesting here.
To the boys.
Shout out to all the Cowboys fans. Sorry, not sorry. All right, my next player here at the 109. I do believe you can. I would say this: if I am a team that doesn't have a top 10 quarterback right now, and I'm at the 109, I would highly consider a quarterback here.
Sure, you can start the conversation at some point. It's funny because you'll see people in our comment section who are like, "There's no way in hell a quarterback should go in the first round."
Yeah,
and you have other people who are like, "I drafted C.J. Stroud in the first round last year, and I feel great about it."
100%.
There's like the comment sections. There's two different sides here.
Yeah,
really.
It just really depends. If you tell me you had Deshaun Watson, I would even say Bryce Young, Jared Goff, Justin Fields.
It's worth looking at quarterback, and especially because Badaki, that is the strength of this class.
100%, 100%, and that's exactly where I would pivot to if I was in a one quarterback league struggling. But we can wait here. I see one of my favorite wide receivers going in the second round, the second pick in the second round, and that is Xavier Legette going to the New England Patriots. He does get a new quarterback in this mock draft, which we'll let you know later on in this video. DK Metcalf type of body that he can be, right? 6'3", 227 pounds. One of the really good hands in the class as well. Only 3% of drop rate. 87 PFF receiving grade. He is a big play threat, in my personal opinion, that can instantly become the wide receiver one in this scenario, going to the New England Patriots. Who else is on this team besides Mario Douglas, who we both love and who can easily see take the next step with a new quarterback? But Xavier Legette instantly becomes the big body X wide receiver that has great size and speed. And that's exactly what you want here. So Xavier Legette going to the New England Patriots.
So we've got Xavier Worthy and Xavier Legette off the board. Xavier Worthy's teammate is going to come off the board next. That is Adonai Mitchell. He goes in the second round, early second round, to your New York Giants, who it looks like you're probably going to roll with Daniel Jones if this is how it were to pan out.
Unlucky.
So not necessarily ideal, but I just want to paint a picture for you guys. There's a dark side of this picture, which is Daniel Jones has never, ever produced, I believe, a top 30 wide receiver in fantasy, finish. I believe I've researched that last year. That's the dark side of the picture. The bright side of the picture is the Giants, since Odell Beckham Jr. left this team, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a Giants fan, I don't personally believe you would have had a talent like Adonai Mitchell on your roster since that point, which means Daniel Jones would have never had a talent like Adonai Mitchell to work with. Am I wrong?
No. I think they're good talent, but anyways. whole other
So
conversation.
Adonai Mitchell joins this team. He has a clear opportunity to step in day one. Wan'Dale Robinson is going to complement him well. Jalen Hyatt is going to complement him well. He steps in to be the ex-alpha wide receiver. Adonai Mitchell played really well versus good competition all year, including the game versus Alabama. Alabama has 2 cornerbacks who are likely going to go in the first round, and he played really well versus both of those guys. He's got great hands. He had a 2.3% drop rate in the regular season, which is 16th best in the nation. Now, he has some clear limitations. He's not a big yak guy. He's going to give you little to nothing as a yak threat. His yak actually was 3 yards after the catch per reception this year, 216th out of 233 wide receivers who had 50 targets in the regular season. So clearly that's a limitation of his. But he's a good route runner that has a foundation to be a great route runner, and he's a very good contested catcher, receiver of the ball. Reminds me a little bit of T. Higgins, and I think he could develop into a DeAndre Hopkins type of player if he takes his route running to the next level. At worst, you're getting a George Pickens type of player in this offense, and that's very exciting. So I'll take him there at the 110.
Okay, Adonai Mitchell to my beloved New York Football Giants. I'm going to do it.
Okay.
I'm going to do it. I'm taking a running back. And in this world, he does go in the second round. He is technically the second running back off the board. And that is Jonathan Brooks. He goes to the Houston Texans at the 111. And now let me tell you why I believe this, in my opinion, is an okay pick here at the 111. I understand he tears his ACL, but the landing spot is phenomenal, and he was a second running back off the board. Now, is this realistic? Probably not. But in this world, if this actually does happen, I truly believe I would genuinely think of taking Jonathan Brooks over someone like an Adonai Mitchell, as you just took there, going to the Giants, who I love. Obviously, that's my team. But Jonathan Brooks in this landing spot and what he can do in this offense, like we've seen with Devin Singletary, who I researched the other day, from weeks 8 to 18, he was a running back 16. Jonathan Brooks can 100% elevate that to the next level. Now, if you don't know, Jonathan Brooks did tear his ACL mid-November. Is he going to be ready? I think there's a window of him to be ready. Maybe not in week 1, but in week 3 to 4, where he can come back and take over this backfield specifically. Already coming in, who has really great vision. He is a pass-catching back, really good, above average speed, and this is exactly what he can bring. I personally compared him to a prime Dalvin Cook. In my personal opinion, we may see that a little bit differently, but if you're telling me he gets drafted to the Houston Texans, he's no doubt taking over the role of Devin Singletary, and no question who has already lost his job in Dameon Pierce. So Jonathan Brooks, I truly believe, could be the number 1 running back by the time you do your rookie mock drafts. Maybe after that draft, or maybe you're doing it in the summer, maybe June or July. However you guys operate, I think Jonathan Brooks could be the RB1, even with the torn ACL.
So in this world we're living in, Jonathan Brooks is a second-round pick, despite his torn ACL. In this world we're living in, that makes sense. Now, in reality, I struggle to see that happen, because he's going to have no opportunity to improve his draft capital. He won't be at the combine. He'll be recovering from an ACL. And teams are going to be drafting him knowing he won't be the same player until 2025, probably at the earliest. He'll be able to play in 2024 at some point, but he won't be the same player. At least that shouldn't be the expectation. So I struggle to believe that an NFL team would draft him in the second round. Now, I love Jonathan Brooks just as much as you. He was my RB1 before the injury. So in this world we're living in, where he does go in the second round, it makes sense. I'm definitely not going to knock you for it at all. He stays in the state of Texas. I said this from day one. I've never been a big Dameon Pierce guy, but he just doesn't fit that offense. And Devin Singletary, Jonathan Brooks is a great replacement for what he's given that team. So this makes sense for sure. But like I said, trying to live out of this reality for a second, I struggle to see him getting a second round selection, as I do for most running backs in this class. But he comes off the board there, and it does make sense for sure. I definitely understand where you're coming from. So this is an interesting spot to be in now, because I think you can kind of start to take shots on guys that you love. I'm going to do that with Trey Benson. Trey Benson comes off the board at the 112. He goes to the Arizona Cardinals in the 3rd round. And James Conner, 1 year left on the contract. We'll see what they do with him. But we know pretty much once a year, James Conner is going to miss a 3 to 4 game stretch. If Trey Benson gets 3 to 4 games to be the starter of this team, or maybe he beats out Trey in camp, who knows? He's not going to lose that job. I mean, this is a dynamic, explosive, good vision, great long run speed, underrated pass catcher type of running back. He is going to, in my opinion, kill the combine. I think he's going to test really, really well. And that's the opposite of Jonathan Brooks. Trey Benson has an opportunity to smash the combine and improve his draft capital. So I'll take Trey Benson here at the 112. He goes to the Cardinals. Reminds me a little bit of David Montgomery, a little bit of the likes of Javonte Williams, So I like this player. I'll take him in a landing spot that is very favorable. We're about to get into the 2nd round of this mock draft, but we quickly want to let you guys know that we have officially released our 2024 Dynasty Rookie Report, where we dive deep into every position of this class. Here's an example of Marvin Harrison Jr.'s profile. If you want these kind of profiles and more, then go ahead and use our promo code LAND. Sign up to the Flock Fantasy website, and you can see on your screen now all that you unlock. There is so much that you unlock when you support us.
Absolutely.
And you choose the Mother Flocker tier. Make sure you choose that tier. But let's get into the 2nd round. You're up at the 201, Badaki. What are you thinking?
All right, at the 201, I personally think this is where we could potentially go quarterback, and I will go quarterback here at the 201. I said this earlier in the video. If you need a quarterback and you don't have a top 10 guy, maybe you have Daniel Jones, I don't know, Tua, Jared Goff, or Bryce Young, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield. If you don't have a top 10 guy like a Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, this is where you should really be looking at a quarterback here. So Caleb Williams going to the Chicago Bears, phenomenal fit.
I'm fine with that, and I don't care if people hate that we do this, but I think Jaden Daniels is probably the best available player on the board. Talking about a guy who's getting comps to Lamar Jackson, my comp was RG3. Think about what RG3 did with the Washington football team, Washington Redskins at the time, in 2012. I believe he finished as a QB1. Don't quote me on that, but I think I remember that. Jane Daniels, dual threat guy. I'll take him here at the 202. So many weapons around him. He's going to get a new GM, new head coach. I'll take him there at the 202.
Let's just finish off this running back, the top 3. The 3rd running back, off the board is Drake May going to the New England Patriots. Obviously, he gets his big body wide receiver in Xavier Legette at the 109. And now he gets Drake May here, or Drake May goes in the 3rd overall pick to New England Patriots, who should be getting a new head coach here very soon. Well, technically has a new head coach. Let's see what they're going to be doing there in the offensive coordinator, so on and so forth. So Drake May here at the 203.
So I'm going to grab Jatavion Sanders at the 204. He gets to link up with Jaden Daniels in Washington. Washington has needed a tight end like this for a long time. Now you got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Jatavion Sanders. He is a freak athlete, former 5-star athlete out of high school, goes to Texas, balls out, incredibly dynamic after the catch, and an exciting piece for Jaden Daniels to grow with. You're up on the board at the 205.
All right. I will be taking a running back. I'll take Braylon Allen here, who goes in the 2nd round. He's technically was the first running back off the board in this NFL mock draft here. He goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. He takes over this role for Joe Mixon. If he does walk, he'll probably be the 1st or 2nd down guy. Goal line opportunity. Who gets more goal line opportunities? It is Joe Mixon. And Braylon Allen coming into this offense can easily get those goal line opportunities over Chase Brown downtown, who we both love, but Braylon Allen to the Bengals.
I'm going to take another running back here. I will take Blake Corum, who went to the Packers in the 3rd round. Aaron Jones hasn't been able to stay healthy much of this year. We'll find out what they do with him long term, but he's going to join an ascending offense. Great vision. I mean, you know, with the weapons around him, with what Jordan Love is doing through the air, that running game should open up like a treat. So I'll take Blake Corum there at the 206.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm going to do another quarterback. I'm going to do Bo Nix to the Atlanta Falcons. Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. He goes in the second round of this mock draft. Bo Nix at the 207, one of our favorite quarterbacks coming into this class, our underrated quarterbacks, I would say, coming into this class, going in the second round, easily, in my opinion, gets the starting job over Desmond and whoever other quarterback they really want to bring in. He should be the guy day one.
So this is where I'm going to have to disagree, just because in a one quarterback format, I'll take shots on these first round guys, but there are so many second round wide receivers and running backs in the third round that I still love. I don't think I would take another quarterback until round 3 personally, outside of those top 3 who went in the first round. And the best available player on the board, in my opinion, is going to be Jalen McMillan. I'll take him here off the board. He goes to the Houston Texans at the in the third round. So he could play the slot for them perfectly. We know Tank Dell and Nico Collins play on the outside. You've got a perfect slot weapon in Jalen McMillan, who I think has the upside to be a very special player in the NFL, connected to a very good quarterback. So I'll take Jalen there off the board.
Yeah. I'll do it here. I'll take Keon Coleman at the 209. He goes to the Carolina Panthers with the first overall pick in the second round.
Yep.
You guys know how we feel about him. Not somebody that we love. He goes to the Carolina Panthers, and Zach has been saying this. A team needs separation. No one gets separation, and Keon Coleman doesn't get separation. He's just a big body wide receiver that can go up and contest the ball and catch it. They need a lot more than Keon Coleman, in my personal opinion, but gets the second round draft capital with the first overall pick in the second round. I'll take him at the 209.
Yeah, I'm going to take a running back. My sleeper, y'all know I love this guy. He's been on the channel. Jalen Wright comes off the board. He went to the Ravens in the third round. He's got great speed, great burst, averaged over 7 yards per carry in the SEC. Impressive player, and he gets to join a backfield that has a huge need for someone to answer the call. And I think Jalen Wright could be that name in the third round.
I mean, my sleeper running back, he goes in the fourth round to the Los Angeles Chargers, and that is Bucky Irving, one of the most, in my opinion, underrated running backs coming out of this class. If you're looking for a PPR monster who's going to be taking over this Austin, quote-unquote, Austin Eckler role, who has all these opportunities being left behind, which I personally think he is going to be off this team at the end of this year, Bucky Irving is somebody that can easily take over those pass-catching opportunities, that dink and dunk abilities from Justin Herbert here. Once again, if you need a PPR monster, that is Bucky Irving here, 5'10", 195 pounds, somebody that I'm saying reminds me of a James Cook coming into this class.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and grab Tez Walker. Now, he got second round draft capital, but he ended up with the Lions, and that's why he's fallen all the way to the 212. But I couldn't have us put out a video where we don't select Tez Walker at all. Just the hate we would get, rightfully so, would be too much to bear. But the issue is the landing spot. Talented player, really talented player, but you're not going to overtake Amon-Ra St. Brown.
No.
For volume, you're not going to overtake Laporta. What happens with Jameson Williams, who is starting to turn things up? You got one of the best pass-catching running backs in the NFL in the backfield, in Jahmyr Gibbs. So where does the volume come from? You know, that's the concern with Tez Walker, but I will take him here at the 212. Very talented player. This is just one of those landing spots you don't want a talented player to go to, because there's already enough talent on the board. But that is a 2-round mock. Let's make an all snubs list, Badaki.
Okay.
We did that last time, and that was awesome. All snubs list. First player I'd probably add to that would have to be Jalen Polk. He went to the Steelers, and that was in the third round, 85th overall pick. Yep. Name some names that you've got in mind as well.
I have a couple of people here. I mean, once again, one quarterback, I think Michael Penix Jr. He goes to the Minnesota Vikings. I think he is somebody that can be worthy of a pick there. If you need a quarterback too, I also am really interested in someone. I mean, we haven't spoken about him, but if Calvin Ridley's no longer on this team, Brendan Rice, he goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'll give him some light there. I like that landing spot because I don't expect Calvin to be there, and he can easily be the wide receiver 2 behind Christian Kirk.
Yeah, a couple other names that came to mind would be Audric Estime. He really should have been drafted now that I look back at it. You know, fourth round to the Vikings. We don't love this player, but again, the impact that a running back can make in one quarterback, I just feel like is more important. He should have been drafted. We love Marshawn Lloyd, but this landing spot sucks. He went to the Bucks in the 4th.
Yeah.
It's just like Marshawn Lloyd's strengths are also Rachaad White's strengths. Not ideal. A couple other names I would say: Malik Washington went to the Broncos in the 4th, and Jaheim Bell went to the Texans in the 4th.
I think that's about it. The only other person I would say is Sweet Baby Ray's. He goes in the 5th round to the Raiders.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's not.
I'll say Jermaine Burton too. He went to the Giants in the 5th, but not the best landing spot or draft capital rather. So hard to really trust that too much.
Yeah, agreed.
That's it for today, guys. We appreciate you. Drop a like, and we'll see you in the next video. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.